A bear gave birth to 5 cubs. Then the vet couldn't believe what he saw next. What if nature held a secret so extraordinary that it left even scientists questioning everything they thought they knew? Deep in the Montana wilderness, what started as a routine labor for a black bear transformed into an awe-inspiring phenomenon when the unexpected occurred. What emerged shocked everyone, a mystery so profound that it defied the very foundations of biology. What did the vet witness that seemed impossible? Dive into this mesmerizing tale of wonder, discovery, and the untamed power of nature. The early morning air at the Montana Wildlife Recovery Center was crisp, carrying the faint scent of pine. Nestled at the foot of the Bitterroot Mountains, the sprawling sanctuary buzzed with quiet anticipation. Today was a rare and extraordinary day. Luna, the center's cherished black bear, was expected to give birth. Her pregnancy had been meticulously monitored for months, with Dr. Thomas Mitchell and his team ensuring she received the highest level of care. Luna had always been a remarkable bear, her resilience and calm nature setting her apart from the other rescued and rehabilitated animals at the center. But even for her, carrying 5 cubs was an astonishing feat, a rarity in black bear biology. Inside the birthing enclosure, the air was thick with tension and excitement. Luna lay nestled on a bed of soft hay, her powerful frame rising and falling with deep, steady breaths. Her deep brown eyes flicked toward the observation window from time to time, aware of the watchful figures behind the glass. Dr. Mitchell and his team stood in quiet concentration, eyes trained on the monitors displaying Luna's vital signs. In the control room, a low murmur of conversation filled the air as the team went over final preparations. They had rehearsed every possible scenario, from a smooth birth to potential complications, but nothing could have prepared them for what was about to unfold. As dawn broke over the sanctuary, Luna's labor began. The first cub arrived swiftly, a tiny, squirming bundle of fur, no larger than a loaf of bread. A collective sigh of relief filled the room as the team watched Luna nuzzle her newborn, tenderly cleaning it with gentle licks. Within minutes, the second and third cubs followed, each appearing healthy and strong. Dr. Mitchell allowed himself a small smile, scribbling down notes as he observed the unfolding scene. 3 down, 2 to go, he murmured, his tone light. By the time the 4th and 5th cubs made their entrance, Luna began to settle, instinctively embracing her newborns as they sought warmth and nourishment. The tension in the room eased, replaced by quiet admiration. "This is a textbook delivery," one of the veterinary interns whispered, awe evident in her voice. For a moment, the room basked in quiet celebration, marveling at Luna's incredible achievement. But just as they began shifting their focus to post-delivery monitoring, Luna's sudden shift in behavior sent a ripple of unease through the team. She shifted restlessly, her ears twitching, and emitted a low, guttural growl. Dr. Mitchell's brow furrowed as he leaned closer to the monitor. "Something's not right," he said, his voice tinged with concern. Moments later, Luna's body tensed again, and the team realized she was going into active labor once more. Gasps of disbelief echoed in the control room. A 6th cub? Such a phenomenon was unheard of in black bears. The team scrambled to adjust their equipment, their earlier confidence replaced by a mix of wonder and apprehension. Dr. Mitchell, ever the scientist, was already considering the implications. A 6th cub could indicate a previously undocumented anomaly in black bear reproduction. But as the minutes stretched on, it became clear this was no ordinary delivery. When the 6th cub finally emerged, the room fell silent. It was enormous compared to its siblings, nearly twice their size, with a coat unlike anything they had ever seen. Its fur was a shimmering silver white, marked with intricate patterns that seemed to glow faintly under the soft light of the enclosure. The markings appeared almost deliberate, as though etched by an unseen hand. The cub's eyes, already partially open, revealed an unusual brightness, an awareness far beyond what anyone expected from a newborn bear. For a moment, time seemed to stand still as everyone in the room tried to process what they were witnessing. Dr. Mitchell was the first to break the silence. This changes everything," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. He moved quickly, issuing orders to document every detail. Cameras whirred and monitors beeped as the team captured the cub's measurements, its unique coat, and its startlingly advanced behavior. To their amazement, the cub managed to lift its head, its small but powerful limbs pushing against the hay as it attempted to stand. It stumbled and fell, but the effort was undeniable, a feat unheard of for a newborn bear. Luna, seemingly unbothered by the commotion, pulled the silver cub close, her massive paw curling protectively around it. Her maternal instincts were on full display as she groomed the cub, her movements deliberate and tender. The other cubs, though tiny in comparison, nestled against their mother, forming a picture of harmony that contrasted sharply with the team's chaotic emotions. Dr. Mitchell watched Luna closely, noting her remarkable composure. "She knows this one is different," he said, his tone filled with a mix of admiration and curiosity. As the hours passed, the team worked tirelessly to ensure Luna and her cubs were stable. Yet the sense of awe and wonder remained. What did this mean for their understanding of bear biology? Could this cub's unique characteristics be the result of a rare genetic mutation? Or was there something more at play? The questions were endless, and for the first time in his career, Dr. Mitchell felt truly out of his depth. This was not just an anomaly. It was a mystery that would challenge everything they thought they knew about wildlife reproduction. Outside the birthing enclosure, the first rays of sunlight spilled over the mountains, bathing the sanctuary in a golden glow. The world was waking up, unaware that something extraordinary had just occurred in this remote corner of Montana. Dr. Mitchell glanced at his team, their faces a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. "We've just witnessed history," he said, his voice filled with quiet conviction, "and this is only the beginning." The sun climbed higher over the Montana Wildlife Recovery Center, casting long shadows across the forested landscape as the world outside stirred into its usual rhythm. Inside the birthing enclosure, however, normalcy was a distant concept. The team was still reeling from the extraordinary events of the morning. Dr. Thomas Mitchell stood at the observation window, his gaze fixed on Luna and her 6 cubs. The silver-white cub, now affectionately nicknamed Silva by one of the veterinary interns, rested in the crook of Luna's massive paw, its faintly glowing markings shimmering under the soft light of the enclosure. Luna's other cubs, tiny and fragile in comparison, huddled together for warmth, their soft squeaks barely audible over the hum of the monitoring equipment. Silva, in stark contrast, seemed almost serene, its chest rising and falling with a rhythmic confidence unusual for a newborn. The team worked quietly around Dr. Mitchell, their voices low and movements deliberate as they recorded data and analyzed preliminary samples. Silva's birth had thrown the entire center into a state of controlled chaos. Blood tests, genetic analyses, and advanced imaging were already underway to uncover the origins of this anomaly. Yet the more they observed, the more questions arose. The cub's advanced motor skills were only part of the puzzle. Its luminous markings, initially dismissed as a trick of the light, were now confirmed to have a faint bioluminescent quality, emitting a soft ethereal glow that seemed to pulse in rhythm with its heartbeat. Dr. Mitchell turned to one of his colleagues, Dr. Elena Park, a molecular biologist who had been called in to assist. "What are we looking at here, Elena?" he asked, his voice a mixture of awe and frustration. Elena shook her head, her brow furrowed in concentration as she studied the data streaming across her tablet. "I don't know, Tom," she admitted. "The preliminary genetic analysis is strange. There are markers in Silva's DNA that don't align with anything we've seen in Ursus americanus, or any other species for that matter. It's like there's something entirely new here." Dr. Mitchell ran a hand through his graying hair, the weight of the moment settling heavily on his shoulders. "Entirely new," he echoed, his voice barely above a whisper. "What does that even mean?" Meanwhile, Luna continued to exhibit a calm protectiveness over her cubs, particularly Silva. She groomed the silver cub with meticulous care, her powerful tongue smoothing its shimmering fur as the other cubs nuzzled against her side. There was an undeniable bond forming, one that transcended the typical dynamics of a bear family. Silva, for its part, responded to Luna's attentions with an uncanny awareness, its bright eyes tracking her movements and its tiny paws reaching out to touch her face. The interaction was mesmerizing, a silent communication that seemed to defy the natural instincts of a newborn. As the day progressed, word of Silva's birth began to spread beyond the confines of the recovery center. A hastily drafted press release, meant only to inform local wildlife enthusiasts, was leaked online, and within hours the story had gone viral. Headlines blared across news outlets. Miracle cub stuns scientists, silver bear born in Montana. The center's phone lines were inundated with calls from reporters, researchers, and curious members of the public. Dr. Mitchell, overwhelmed but determined to maintain control of the situation, instructed his team to focus on their work and let the administrative staff handle the media frenzy. By late afternoon, the first wave of external experts began to arrive. Among them was Dr. Rajesh Patel, a renowned wildlife geneticist who had flown in from New York at a moment's notice. His reputation as a trailblazer in the field of evolutionary biology preceded him, and his arrival injected a new level of intensity into the investigation. After a brief introduction, Dr. Patel wasted no time in examining the data and observing Silva from the observation room. His reaction mirrored the team's initial awe, but it was his sharp, analytical mind that quickly shifted the conversation. "These markings," he said, pointing to a high-resolution image of Silva's coat projected on the screen, "I've seen them before, or at least something similar. Ancient cave paintings in northern Siberia. The patterns were thought to represent a mythological creature, a spirit bear said to bring balance to the natural world. But to see them here, on a living creature..." His voice trailed off, and the room fell silent as the implications of his words sank in. The mention of the cave paintings sent a ripple of excitement through the team, but it also deepened the mystery. Could Silva be a genetic throwback to an ancient lineage? Or was there something even more extraordinary at play? Dr. Mitchell, ever the pragmatist, pushed aside the more speculative theories. "We need to stay grounded," he said firmly, though his voice lacked its usual conviction. "Let's focus on the science. Whatever this is, it's our job to understand it." Despite his words, he couldn't shake the feeling that Silva's birth was more than just a scientific anomaly. There was a sense of something greater, something he couldn't yet define. As evening fell, the team reconvened to discuss their findings. The data collected so far was both tantalizing and inconclusive. Silva's genetic profile was undeniably unique, with sequences that hinted at traits not found in any known bear species. Yet the origins of these traits remained a mystery. Dr. Parks suggested that environmental factors could have played a role, but even she admitted the likelihood was slim. "This isn't just a mutation," she said. "It's something else entirely." In the midst of their discussion, a low growl from the enclosure drew their attention. Luna had risen to her full height, her powerful frame towering over the cubs as she stared intently at the observation window. Her eyes, usually calm and watchful, now burned with an intensity that sent a shiver down Dr. Mitchell's spine. It was as though she knew they were watching, and her gaze seemed to carry a warning. "Protect my cub, or face the consequences." The moment passed as quickly as it had come, but it left the team unsettled. Dr. Mitchell turned back to the group, his expression grave. "We have to tread carefully," he said. "Luna trusts us, but if she feels threatened, that could change in an instant. Silva's survival, and the survival of the other cubs, depends on us respecting that bond." As the team dispersed for the night, Dr. Mitchell lingered by the observation window, watching Luna and her cubs settle into a peaceful slumber. Silva, nestled against Luna's chest, seemed to glow faintly in the dim light, a beacon of mystery and wonder. For the first time in years, Dr. Mitchell felt the thrill of discovery tempered by the weight of responsibility. Whatever secrets Silva held, they were not just scientific curiosities. They were a reminder of nature's enduring power to surprise, to inspire, and to humble those who dared to explore its depths. The following morning, the Montana Wildlife Recovery Center was alive with a hum of activity, as though the world itself had shifted to accommodate the extraordinary birth. Scientists, veterinarians, and reporters were pouring into the facility, each with their own theories, questions, and equipment, all eager to witness the silver cub that had captivated imaginations worldwide. Silva had become an unintentional celebrity, and Luna, ever the protective mother, seemed acutely aware of the increased attention. Her movements were more guarded, her posture brimming with quiet vigilance. The other cubs, oblivious to the commotion, tumbled over one another in playful chaos, while Silva remained an enigmatic figure at the center of it all. The silver cub was not merely different in appearance, but exuded an undeniable presence, as though even in its infancy, it commanded respect and curiosity. Dr. Thomas Mitchell watched the scene unfold from the observation room, his coffee forgotten on the desk beside him. He had spent the better part of the night reviewing data, poring over Silva's genetic profile with Dr. Elena Park and the newly arrived Dr. Rajesh Patel. Despite their expertise, the results offered more questions than answers. Silva's genome was unlike anything they had encountered, with sequences that defied categorization and suggested capabilities far beyond what a typical bear should possess. What unnerved Dr. Mitchell the most was the subtle implication in the data. Silva was not just an anomaly, it was potentially an evolutionary leap. Yet the word evolution felt insufficient to describe the phenomenon. Evolution was slow, a process that unfolded over millennia. Silva had arrived as though plucked from another realm, fully formed and ready to challenge their understanding of biology. As the team prepared for another round of observations, the tension in the air was palpable. Dr. Patel, with his characteristic directness, broke the silence. "This cub's markings," he said, pointing to a high-resolution image on the monitor, "aren't just random patterns. Look at the symmetry, the precision. These markings have meaning. Nature doesn't do this by accident." His statement drew murmurs of agreement and skepticism from the gathered scientists. Dr. Park leaned forward, her analytical mind already working through the implications. "Are you suggesting these markings serve a purpose? Some kind of biological function?" Dr. Patel shrugged, his expression thoughtful. "Maybe, or maybe they're a message. Either way, they're not ornamental." The idea lingered, heavy and unsettling, as the team moved to conduct their next set of tests. Silva, surprisingly cooperative for such a young animal, allowed the medical team to conduct non-invasive scans and measurements under Luna's watchful eye. The silver cub's bioluminescent markings pulsed faintly, as if reacting to the touch of human hands, a phenomenon that left even the most seasoned researchers grasping for explanations. Dr. Mitchell, ever cautious, reminded the team to prioritize the cub's well-being. "We're here to learn," he said firmly, "but we're not here to exploit. Silva is not a lab specimen. It's a living being, and we owe it our respect." As the day progressed, the Recovery Center found itself at the epicenter of a growing ethical debate. Environmental organizations, scientific institutions, and even biotech companies were vying for a stake in Silva's future. Conservationists argued passionately for the cub's protection, warning against the dangers of overexposure and exploitation. Others, including some within the scientific community, saw Silva as an unprecedented opportunity to advance human knowledge, a key to unlocking secrets about evolution, genetics, and perhaps even the origins of life itself. The most controversial voice came from a major biotech corporation, which proposed a research partnership that included funding for the center in exchange for exclusive access to Silva's genetic data. The offer was staggering, millions of dollars that could transform the facility and expand its ability to care for wildlife. Yet the price of such a deal weighed heavily on Dr. Mitchell, who found himself at the heart of the storm. In the quiet hours of the evening, Dr. Mitchell retreated to his office, seeking refuge from the chaos. He stared at the stack of proposals on his desk, each one promising breakthroughs, advancements, and progress, yet all tinged with an undercurrent of greed and ambition. His thoughts drifted to Luna, who lay with her cubs in the enclosure, blissfully unaware of the battles being waged over her silver offspring. Silva was not a commodity or a miracle to be owned. It was a mystery, one that demanded humility rather than hubris. Dr. Mitchell sighed, running a hand through his hair. The weight of the decisions before him felt insurmountable. For all his years of experience, he had never encountered a challenge so profound, so deeply tied to the core of his beliefs. Just as he was about to close his office for the night, a soft knock on the door startled him. Dr. Park stepped inside, her face a mixture of exhaustion and determination. "Tom," she began, her voice steady, "I've been running more analyses on Silva's genetic data. There's something you need to see." Dr. Mitchell motioned for her to continue, and she placed a tablet on his desk, pulling up a series of charts and images. "Look at this," she said, pointing to a section of the genome marked in red. "This sequence, it doesn't match anything in our database. But what's more interesting is its behavior. It's not just a static code, it's active, dynamic, almost as if it's aware." Dr. Mitchell frowned, leaning closer to examine the data. "Aware?" he repeated, skepticism creeping into his voice. Dr. Park nodded, her expression serious. "I know how it sounds, but this sequence responds to stimuli in ways that shouldn't be possible. It's as if Silva's DNA is interacting with its environment, adapting in real time." The revelation left Dr. Mitchell speechless. If Dr. Park's findings were accurate, Silva was not just a genetic anomaly, but a living example of something entirely new. An organism that defied the boundaries of biology and evolution. His mind raced with the implications. What if Silva represented a new phase of life on Earth? One that blurred the lines between adaptation and intelligence. What if they were witnessing the emergence of a new species, one that could redefine humanity's understanding of its place in the natural world? Dr. Park's voice broke through his thoughts. "We need to be careful, Tom. If this gets out, Silva won't just be a scientific curiosity. It'll be a target. People will want to control it, to use it, and I don't think we can let that happen." Dr. Mitchell nodded, the weight of her words settling over him. "You're right," he said quietly. "Silva isn't ours to control. It belongs to the wild, to the world." As the night deepened, Dr. Mitchell returned to the observation room, his thoughts heavy but resolute. Luna and her cubs were asleep, their forms bathed in the soft glow of the enclosure lights. Silva lay nestled against its mother, its luminous markings pulsing faintly, a beacon of mystery and wonder. For a moment, Dr. Mitchell allowed himself to simply watch, to marvel at the fragile yet profound beauty of the scene before him. Whatever the future held, one thing was certain: Silva was more than a scientific anomaly. It was a reminder of nature's boundless potential, a call to approach the unknown with humility, respect, and awe. The days that followed were a blur of activity at the Montana Wildlife Recovery Center. Scientists from around the world continued to arrive, each bringing their expertise in theories to the unfolding mystery of Silva. Yet the silver cub remained a paradox, as elusive in its behavior as it was striking in its appearance. Despite the rigorous testing, observations, and debates, Silva defied categorization, slipping through the fingers of human understanding like water through a sieve. For Dr. Thomas Mitchell, the growing storm of attention only deepened his conviction that the answers they sought might not be found in labs or data, but in something far less tangible, a truth that existed beyond the realm of human comprehension. Luna, ever the attentive mother, seemed unaffected by the chaos around her. She continued to care for her cubs with unwavering focus, her every movement a testament to the bond between a mother and her young. Silva remained at the center of her attention, its luminous markings and heightened awareness only adding to her vigilance. The other cubs, oblivious to the magnitude of their siblings' existence, grew stronger each day, their playful interactions a stark contrast to Silva's quiet, watchful demeanor. Despite its advanced abilities, Silva rarely joined in their games, as though it understood its role was something greater, something apart. The breaking point came on a cold, clear morning. Dr. Mitchell stood in the observation room, sipping a cup of black coffee and watching Luna and her cubs. The decision he had been dreading loomed closer with each passing hour. The biotech corporation's offer had escalated, with promises of not just funding, but global partnerships that could elevate the recovery center to unprecedented levels of influence and capability. The temptation was undeniable. With that kind of backing, they could expand their mission, rescue more animals, and deepen their research into wildlife conservation. But it would come at a cost Dr. Mitchell wasn't sure he was willing to pay. As he stared at Silva, who lay nestled in the crook of Luna's paw, a thought struck him with startling clarity. They were trying to define something that wasn't meant to be defined. Silva wasn't a puzzle to be solved or a prize to be won. It was a living embodiment of nature's mysteries, a reminder that not everything was meant to fit neatly into human frameworks. Dr. Mitchell set down his coffee, his decision solidifying in his mind. He turned to the team gathered behind him, their faces etched with exhaustion and anticipation. "We're done," he said, his voice firm but calm. "No more tests, no more debates. Silva is not ours to keep. We need to let them go." The room erupted into a cacophony of protests and questions, but Dr. Mitchell held up a hand, silencing them. "I know what you're thinking," he said, his gaze sweeping over the group, "and I know what we're giving up. But this isn't about us. It's about respecting what we don't understand. Silva and Luna don't belong in a cage, no matter how well-intentioned we think we are. They belong in the wild." The words hung in the air, heavy with finality. Slowly the protests subsided, replaced by a quiet understanding that was no less painful for its inevitability. Preparations began immediately. The team worked tirelessly to ensure Luna and her cubs would have the best chance of survival once released. Dr. Patel and Dr. Park stayed late into the night, compiling their findings into a comprehensive report that would serve as a foundation for future research. Despite their differing opinions, the scientists shared a sense of camaraderie, a recognition that they were part of something much larger than themselves. The world would continue to debate Silva's origins, but for those who had witnessed the silver cub firsthand, the answers seemed less important than the questions it had raised. The release was set for dawn. A convoy of trucks carried Luna and her cubs deep into the Bitterroot Mountains, to a remote area carefully chosen for its abundant resources and minimal human interference. The journey was silent, each member of the team lost in their own thoughts. Dr. Mitchell sat in the lead vehicle, his hands resting on his lap as he gazed out at the darkened forest. He felt a pang of doubt, a whisper of fear that they might be making a mistake. But as the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, illuminating the snow-dusted trees in a wash of gold, those doubts melted away. This was the right choice. It had to be. The convoy stopped at the edge of a clearing, where the mountains rose like ancient sentinels guarding the secrets of the wild. The air was crisp and still, the kind of silence that seemed to breathe with its own life. The team worked quickly and quietly, opening the gates of the transport enclosure and stepping back to give Luna and her cubs space. For a moment, nothing happened. Then slowly Luna emerged, her massive frame moving with a grace that belied her size. She paused, sniffing the air, her dark eyes scanning the forest ahead. One by one, the cubs followed, tumbling into the snow with hesitant steps. Silva was the last to emerge. The silver cub stepped into the light, its markings shimmering faintly against the stark white of the snow. It paused beside Luna, lifting its head as though tasting the air. Then, with a deliberate grace that seemed almost ceremonial, Silva turned to face the humans who had cared for it. Its bright eyes met Dr. Mitchell's, and for a fleeting moment, he felt an inexplicable connection, as though Silva was acknowledging him, thanking him. The moment passed, and Silva turned away, trotting after Luna and the other cubs as they disappeared into the forest. The team stood in silence, watching the family vanish into the wilderness. Dr. Mitchell felt a lump rise in his throat, a mixture of pride, sadness, and awe. He turned to the others, his voice steady despite the emotion in his chest. "This is what we're here for," he said, "to protect, to preserve, and to let go." As they packed up and prepared to leave, a soft glow caught Dr. Mitchell's eye. He turned back to the clearing, his breath catching in his throat. Where Silva had stood moments before, the snow seemed to shimmer with a faint, bioluminescent glow, forming intricate patterns that mirrored the markings on the silver cub's coat. The sight was fleeting, fading as the sun rose higher, but it left an indelible mark on everyone who saw it. Dr. Mitchell climbed into the truck, his heart lighter than it had been in weeks. Silva was gone, but its impact would endure, a living testament to the mysteries of the natural world and a reminder of humanity's place within it. As the convoy wound its way back to the recovery center, the forest seemed to hum with life, a chorus of sounds that spoke of resilience, balance, and wonder. And somewhere deep within those ancient trees, a silver cub with luminous markings ran alongside its family, a guardian of secrets that would remain untold. The story we've just shared is a reminder of nature's boundless mysteries and our responsibility as stewards of the world we inhabit. Silva, The extraordinary cub symbolizes the wonder and unpredictability of life. It challenges us to approach the unknown with humility and respect, recognizing that not everything is meant to be fully understood or controlled. Luna's unwavering bond with her cubs reminds us of the importance of nurturing and protecting what matters most, even when faced with challenges that defy explanation. This tale also highlights the ethical dilemmas we face in the pursuit of knowledge and progress. It teaches us that sometimes the most profound choice is to step back and let nature take its course, trusting that the world's balance will be preserved in ways beyond our comprehension. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the heart of the wilderness and the depths of human reflection. If you found this story inspiring, thought-provoking, or simply enjoyable, we invite you to subscribe to our channel for more stories that explore the beauty and complexity of the natural world and the human experience. Your support helps us continue sharing these meaningful narratives. See you in the next adventure.